Thanks for keeping us company. And if you just tuned in, this is Y254 Discussion Monday, and tonight we are looking at maritime shipping laws. And before we took that break, we had looked at why should we have maritime laws and how does the International Maritime Organizations impact on regulations in shipping. And now we want to look at some of the things you should consider before getting into business. And right about now we look at some of the custom regulations. A reminder, with me in studio is Julu Okadie. He's a maritime and shipping lawyer. So Julu, when it comes to the things that one should consider before getting into business of shipping, one of them is custom regulations. Would you tell us what it is all about?
Now, custom essentially referred to as the entry point of the good,
right?
Okay, and that's why you have custom officers who assist each other with the Kenya Revenue Authority. Yeah? The reason as to why you have that is because one of them is they need to assess the tax which is due. Okay. Now, when you import goods and actually get to Kenya,
right,
that's when your clearing agent, because of course you work with a clearing agent. Your clearing agent will give the manifest. Okay. The manifest essentially indicates that, for instance, he has 4 cows. 4 cars, that kind of thing, itemization, yeah,
right,
which ship, how many people are on board, that kind of thing, yeah,
right.
Now, when the KRA officials get that particular document, then they'll assess and give the category of that particular document, because different categories account for different kind of goods and
right,
different amounts, that kind of thing. So the duty per se will be a percentage,
right,
of the cost of the goods and the freight cost of the good.
Right.
So the freight is the charges that are charged when transporting the goods. That's the carrier charge, and the cost, of course, is the good. And then there is insurance. However, insurance now under Kenya, previously it used to be you can buy insurance outside Kenya, but now, given the Insurance Act Amendment 2017, you need to buy insurance locally.
Right.
So those are some of the things that are looked into. And then the other thing that customs, why customs is important, customs also looks at the quality, okay?
Right.
The quality of the goods, and that's why earlier on I mentioned you need to have the international standard marks, you need to have quality certificate depending on the items that you're bringing in.
Right.
So custom will verify that indeed whatever you've declared is up to standard, and that's why they look at things like your certificate.
Right.
If you have the certificate for this particular goods, or if you declare that this particular good is a transit good, then there, of course, the other things that they'll waive.
So someone was sleeping when we were having counterfeit sugars.
Well, yeah, sure.
All right. Now, speaking of the custom duty, is there an incidence where I would be charged from the country of origin to a destination country? Like I'm importing something from, say, Netherlands, and then I be charged from there and then be charged from my country, or it is one place, one time?
That depends with the country.
Right.
Okay. Different countries have their different regulations.
Right.
And that's why, if you've ever heard of the free trade area, a free trade area is a group of countries which decide that if goods are moving from one end to the other, then there will be no tariff charge or there lower tariff charge, so as to encourage trade in between. Let's say, for instance, you're moving from Kenya to Uganda, and we have a free trade area between Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. Then that means that there will be no tariff applying. But if we don't have that kind of setup or agreement,
right, then
it means that you're going to be charged. So it's just a question of, earlier on I mentioned political goodwill and political understanding of that particular leadership.
Right.
Now that leadership will have to decide whether it's going to get into that bilateral agreement or not. So it just depends with the laws and policies of that particular country. So you could be charged, you could not be charged.
Okay, why should we have insurance when it comes to shipping? Okay, we have insurances in our vehicles, but now when it comes to sea shipping, why should we talk of insurance? And to who does it apply anyway?
Yeah, okay. Insurance, I think the general underlying principle about insurance is the fact that it gives you peace of mind. Okay. Now, so many things happen at the sea or
right,
while in transit.
The pirates?
Seas, yes. I mean, you can have pirates, you can have bad weather. Okay, you can have your goods collision. Collision is what you might refer to as road accident.
Right.
But then, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So you have those kind of what is normally termed as the perils of sea. Now, the reason as to why you might need to have insurance is because of that uncertainty. All right. And accidents at sea or losses at sea are normally massive. So it will be very commercially illogical for you to not have insurance because of the cost and the level of loss involved when it comes to the maritime aspect.
Right.
Yes.
And when you speak of insurance, is it that particular product I'm importing or exporting that particular time, or it's one thing I take for my business entirely?
There's a different aspect of insurance which you rightly pointed out. It could be car insurance, for instance. Now, let me go back to earlier what is referred to as Incoterms, which essentially are commercial terminologies or agreements. Okay, one of them could be what is referred to as X-Works. Now, X-Works works from it contemplates the transportation of goods from the warehouse of the seller to the warehouse of the buyer.
Right.
Okay, so it covers the entire transportation period. So at this particular point, you have different kind of things involved. One, you have the worker at the seller's warehouse, okay, moving around with the machines and that kind of equipment used. Yeah?
Right.
So he loads their boxes. He loads the boxes into a lorry. Okay. Now you need to take insurance for that worker first of all because he's working within a warehouse. Then you need to also take insurance for the driver and the motor vehicle because he's going to use the motor vehicle on the road.
Right.
Then you also need to take insurance for that particular good because you're going to put it aboard ship.
Right.
Okay. So once that the carrier, that is the ship, gets to your destination, then it's given to another driver and lorry. Then before it gets to your place. So depending on the item that you're looking at what particular time are you considering your insurance, then you can't really say that there's one-off kind of insurance. It could be for the commodity,
Right.
but it could also be for the entire transaction.
Okay.
Just depending on whatever you want to consider and where your risks are most.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. We are running out of time, but now as we finish, in case of a business scam, I am transacting with someone in China. I've never met them. I do not know them. How do I file my case? Who do I argue with? Is it my bank? Is it the seller? I do not know. How now do I go this process?
Now, there are certain protections which they are commercial, perhaps in commercial intelligence or just dealings. Yeah. Now, essentially, in those kind of scenarios, you use a middle party. It could be your lawyer, it could be your bank. Okay, so that you don't directly transact. Because remember, at this particular point, the seller that you've never met has the goods.
Right.
Okay. And the buyer that you has never met the seller has the money.
Right.
Okay. So both of them are not certain about the other's conduct.
Yes.
So that's why essentially you might use your bank, give an undertaking to his bank that upon receipt of the good, then the bank will release the money to the seller's bank. Okay. Now the seller's bank will give the money to the seller, and on your end, once the bank release the money, then they give you the goods. So essentially, it's normally important to use the bank. Now, in the event that the situation that you're given does not work out, then there's normally a question of forum or a question of which court do you go to. Now, that will depend on the agreement that you had.
Right. With
the seller, between the buyer and the seller.
Right.
Now, one of the clauses is normally the jurisdiction. Which court do we go to in the event of a dispute? That is, I've given my money but I've not received the goods. So that is a question of non-delivery.
Right.
So it's sue for non-delivery. So depending on what you agree on, normally in the agreement it's important for you to have a clause on jurisdiction. But then before that, the other thing that why lawyers come in and why it's important to have legal advice is because of due diligence. Because say you have a company in China, then if you go to a lawyer's office
Right.
then he might he might carry out due diligence on that particular company. For instance, search the company, get a certificate of that particular company, get the records of that company, get to know who is actually the shareholder, the director, that kind of thing, and whether the physical location that you've been given is actually the correct physical location. So
right.
you also protect yourself.
Okay. Awesome. Many thanks for coming and sharing your sentiments and comments on this. I'm trusting back home you have learned something. He has been my guest, Julu Okade. He's a maritime and shipping lawyer. And my name is Dereva Hilary. Thank you again for keeping us company. See you on Friday. And coming up next is Y Mashariki. Have a good night. Enjoy your evening.